Good afternoon. Glad to be here. I'm Tom Martin with Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly is a full-service accounting firm in the top 15 in the country and has a division specific to EB-5. And as Colin mentioned, our role within the EB-5 space is assisting in getting prepared those that are going to eventually file to USCIS. So I'm the managing director of our organization, and then many of you are excited to have an opportunity to ask some questions of my colleague, Steve Pazan, who is a former USCIS adjudicator. So the two of us are here to represent the Baker Tilly team. As I mentioned before, Baker Tilly is a large-scale accounting firm. We have a large network overseas. We're in 145 countries and over 34,000 professionals in the space. We prepare economic reports that are critical to an EB-5 application that demonstrates job creation. We've done over 1,000 of those, business plans. We also prepare source of funds analyses, as Cindy talked about before, making sure that your source of funds is clear and in a way that the USCIS feels comfortable that the source comes from a legal and lawful source. And our work has been used to raise over $500 million in EB-5 capital. Our services range from a broker-dealer arm, which also has due diligence work, pre-immigration tax planning, tax compliance. That's where the marriage between the accounting group and the EB-5 group come together. So I'm going to talk about kind of the ugly ramifications of retrogression. So if you remember from our earlier discussion where we were talking about the rules of EB-5, one of those critical rules is that the money must remain at risk. And so the question becomes, if my country that I'm coming from is backlogged and the project is complete and finished and the developer no longer wants to be paying interest on a loan, they want to give the money back. However, if you are not able to, you haven't received your conditional green card and you're not able to file for your permanent residency, you and the entity that you're a part of, the new commercial enterprise, cannot accept that money back. That money must remain at risk. So what do we do with the money? If it's supposed to remain at risk and we cannot give it back, what are the things that I will have to do as a new commercial enterprise in order for us to make sure that you remain in compliance with the EB-5 program all the way up until you do receive your conditional green card, and then 2 years later, your permanent green card. So the rules for EB-5 have created a situation where we would then need to do something with the money, and we refer to that as redeployment. And that means that they're going to take the money and put it into something else. There are some pros, and I'll talk about a few of those for redeployment. I don't think there's a lot of pros from a redeployment standpoint. If you're an investor, the pro is that you maintain your ability to remain eligible for the EB-5 program. Your money remains at risk. You could potentially, in a redeployment situation, get better terms, but it's not guaranteed. And you will have additional time. You could potentially even have, if the money is redeployed in a project that creates more jobs, you could potentially have more jobs available to the program, and you could, in essence, defer some tax obligations or consequences by that money remaining in a project. The cons are probably outweigh the pros. I'm sure you can imagine that if you've done your due diligence, you've looked into a project, you've invested your hard-earned money into a particular project, that project does exactly what it was supposed to do. It's built, the jobs are created, and then somebody comes along and says, okay, we're going to take that money and we're going to go put it in another project for you. And you're like, well, wait a minute, do I have any say in this? And there are some rules that do give you some say, but it's going to ultimately be dependent on the offering and how it was originally written. And a lot of EB-5 projects are written in such a way now that don't give you a lot of control. If you're investing into a project and they ultimately need to redeploy it, they can say, well, we'll redeploy it into another similar project, or they could redeploy it into something completely different. So that puts you in a bit of a difficult situation. The capital could be tied up for an extended period of time. And then there's also some risk with USCIS. Because redeployment is a fairly new thing for USCIS, they haven't been especially clear with how they're going to ultimately adjudicate this. We feel, and from what we're getting ultimately from USCIS, that as long as the money is redeployed into something that is in line with the new commercial enterprise's initial intent, then you should be okay. But there is some risk with USCIS. So I think you would want to make sure if you're investing into any EB-5 vehicle that a conversation, especially if you're coming from a country that could be retrogressed or is already retrogressed, how does that ultimately protect me as an investor if the money is completed within the project, and then where does it ultimately go while I'm waiting for my 829 for my permanent green card to become available? So, thank you.